Whew. Well, I don't think we can come out of that without going to the poet laureate of climate change, the one and only Mr. Al Gore from the CBS Morning Show with
Harry Smith.
Harry Smith.
One thin September soon, a floating continent disappears in midnight sun. Vapors rise as fever settles on an acid sea. Neptune's bones dissolve. Snow glides from the mountain. Ice fathers floods for a season. Hard rain comes quickly. Then dirt is parched. Kindling is placed in the forest for the lightning celebration. Unknown creatures take their leave unmourned. Horsemen ready their stirrups. Passion seeks heroes and friends. The bell of the city on the hill is rung. The shepherd cries. The hour of choosing has arrived. Here are your tools.
I am a tool.
I'm so glad you read that. I'm very happy.
Thanks for asking me.
That was beautiful.
Wow,
that was
shockingly, I am also glad he read it, because now we have that.
We have that, and that has provided us hours of laughter over the years.
It really has. There's some amazing stuff in there. I mean, James Hansen is one of my favorites, because first of all, the story of him looking down from the office where he was in New York that was described in the serial. It's actually directly above the Seinfeld restaurant, if you remember the Seinfeld restaurant. And he looks down and he's, what's it gonna look like in 20 years? He's like, the West Side Highway is going to be underwater. Those birds won't be here anymore. And of course, those birds probably did actually die.
Yes, they probably did.
Not that, you know.
There will be more. There will be more cops.
There will be restaurants, because of all the droughts. Restaurants will be water by request only. There will be signs up everywhere. Of course, I actually went to that area and walked around and looked at every single one of his predictions to see if any of them came true. None of them came true. And this is on the heels of his big global warming testimony in 1989, where he actually, and you know, a lot of times now, though, they won't give you specifics. He outlined 3 specific scenarios about what would happen to the climate in the future. 1, if we really got smart and listened to him and got rid of all of our emissions. 2, if we kept going on the current path. And 3, if, you know, we just didn't stop at all, we didn't care at all, we had huge increases in emissions. And he gave the prediction of what the temperature would do. Now, what happened with emissions was actually worse than his worst case scenario. So his worst case scenarios, we emitted way more carbon than even that scenario. It was way worse. We had way more economic expansion than he predicted. We had far more in the undeveloped world coming online and actually becoming civilized. Huge amounts of power, huge amounts of emissions. It was worse than his worst scenario as far as quote-unquote pollution goes. What did the temperature do? The temperature was lowest than his lowest prediction. It actually was lower than the prediction he made if we actually listened to him and cut emissions. So if he was right, it should have been higher than his highest prediction. Instead, it was lower than his lowest. That's how wrong he was. And this is the situation that they look back at and say, wow, this guy was a groundbreaker. It's why he's still in the public sphere today, because of this testimony in which he was completely wrong.
All of that may be true, Stu, but fever has settled on an acid sea, and Neptune's bones have dissolved.
Let me ask you this. Has the bell rung or has it gone unrung?
The bell of the city?
Yes.
Has been rung.
It has been rung.
Been rung.
Where are our tools?
And the shepherd hath cried.
Wait, but our tools...
what about the horse? Are they ready with the stirrups?
No, they actually got their foot stuck in the stirrups and fell off the horse.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on just a second. The shepherds or the horse? Are the horses riding other horses?
No, the shepherds were riding the horses.
Why would the shepherds be riding the horses?
Because they
usually
were trying to round up the sheep with their horses. And they got their feet caught because they're not used to riding the horses. And they fell, and the horses...
Would you please check that? Because I believe the horses are riding horses. Horses readied their stirrups.
Horsemen.
Horsemen readied their stirrups.
Horsemen readied their...
Why will you not answer where our tools are?
Here are our tools.
Okay.
I am a tool.
Hey, by the way, speaking of wrong predictions, didn't you guys say that Al Gore was going to be running by this time?
Well, we said if there was an implosion of Hillary, which didn't pan out, that the next logical guy, the only guy, would have been Al Gore. And I think Al Gore would have actually done better.
There is still time.
I think Gore would have done better. I think Gore would have
He
beaten.
might be readying his stirrups.
He might.
Where are our tools, though?
Will he take his leave unmourned, as unknown creatures have? I don't know.
Who's going to mourn a creature they don't know about? Why would you do that? Of course you don't do that. That would be stupid.